quick look at the match stats and see if they tell the story. Carlton superior in the kicking department. Collingwood the hand passes. Apart from those, pretty even. Carlton first to the ball, more free kicks. Tackles, Carlton 26 and Collingwood 18. Centre breaks, the all-important stat there. Carlton having 17 centre breaks and Collingwood having 12. So a history-making night is over. Football continues on 7 tomorrow night when Sydney plays host to the Brisbane Bears. That match at the SCG. Don't forget to check your local guides wherever you may be viewing. Well, we certainly hope you've enjoyed our coverage of this game. Collingwood fans, I'm sure, would have liked a different result, but that's it. 100 years, 204 games. Carlton continue as they started. From the MCG, good night to you all.
He's put up towards, oh, look at Jazalenko! What a ripper!
They fly down to the ground, it comes. Kick off the ground here by McKenna. And he's still got it. Up the ground, up in the best. Look into the goal square, Big John.
Oh, what about the mark to Hall? Oh, look at that!
Going forward, up to the wing. Oh, over the top of Jensen. Oh, Jazalenko, you beauty.
To go for the mark, he's got his hands till he's marked it. Oh, even Robert Walls couldn't stop it. As I said, Gavin trying to get clear, stuck his fist up and in the bloke's throat that time. There's the goal coming up, he's got it. Elgin Johnson, you're a man, he's Kilda. Gus lining them up again, fires, lines into the goal.
Goal number 6.
Goal number 6 tonight.
The right half forward flank. Banks taken out by DeRuy. Starcevic sandwiched.
Oh, Silvani! There for a week.
Brilliantly off Lockett. We saw the first and then another one off the ground, and Coghlan didn't have a lot of touches yesterday, but he did a good job. Here's Pickering on Bowie. Newport played well. He kicked a couple of good goals and his delivery was excellent. This was 50 metres against Bryce for Pekin. It was touch and go, that one. Kick it, very good skills, left-hand pick-up, and this time Nathan Burke kicking one of his goals round the corner. But it was awesome, Kilda. And to think that Lockett just kicked 3 goals and they won by 10, not a good sign for Melbourne. The D's are really struggling. They look to be out of the picture as far as the top 6 is concerned. Kickett's been in terrific form, and John Longmire was in very good form yesterday with his comeback with 7 goals. And North Melbourne, well, they are an enigma, there's no question about that. There's a high tackle there on Harvey on Scholl, and Longmire, one of his goals yesterday. He was totally out of sorts the week before against Collingwood, but as I said, they're an enigma, North Melbourne. They've now won 3 games, and who knows, they play Fitzroy on Friday night, and if they win there, well, they're back in the picture. But if you'd seen them against Collingwood, you thought they would have been down and out, as Powell was there yesterday after that incident with Cormac. Richard Osborne, what form is he in this year? He could kick 100 goals this season the way he's playing. There's been a lot of publicity around Dunstall and Lockett, and why not? They deserve it, but Osborne has been quietly going about his form. Oh, Ablett in brilliant form. He too is on a goal-kicking spree. Geelong have been absolutely superb in their last few matches. They've kicked 32 goals, 37 goals, 25 goals, 20 goals and 29 in their last 5 matches. Bairstow was brilliant yesterday. Here's some courage shown by Scott. Very, very good mark. And it's good to see that he's returning to the form of a couple of years ago. And, well, Ablett does make it look easy, doesn't he? And Gary Ablett has bounced back after all the drama of last year, where he started late and then had very little impact. No reports from the 6 games to date, only 1 game remaining, and that's Footscray and West Coast, and that's where the Sunday Times are talking about. It's worth the risk, Mickey Malthouse says, to play Turley, McKenna, Heady and McIntosh today. He's suggesting they may not be 100% fit. The Adelaide Sunday Mail is saying that the Crows are just not up to scratch. They've been hammered their last 2 weeks by St Kilda at Moorabbin and also by Geelong at Cardinia Park. The same thing happened to them last year, and John Northey really fuming yesterday. His position being questioned by a couple of reporters after the match, and John not happy at all. And on the Northey subject, that was from the Sunday Sun Herald. Scotty Palmer, as always, joins us, the sports editor from the paper. And John, Scotty, welcome. There was high drama yesterday, and Ian Ridley was getting involved.
Pretty dramatic action after it, when Ian Ridley actually rang me and said that he was upset about the grilling to John Northey, and he made an ultimatum. He said, if Northey's position is questioned at the board table, the first question will not be Northey, it will be whether he stays on as chairman of the club. So I think he's trying to put the stopper on it immediate. And I think this sort of statement by a very courageous president probably will end discussion on whether Northey sees out the year or not. And it's a very good move by Ian Ridley. He doesn't like to be put into a corner like this, he told me last night, but the time had come. And anyone who tackles Northey from now on will tackle Ian Ridley. So that's good news.
Okay, I don't think there's any doubt that John Northey's position's in doubt at the end of this year, but he should be able to see.
Well, Ridley said that it will be looked at the end of the year. He will fulfil his terms of contract.
Okay, Hawthorn had a bye yesterday, but there's plenty of news from the Hawk camp.
Yes, we've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks. Dermy is going into hospital on Tuesday. They're carrying out an exploratory operation on his hip. They don't know exactly what they'll find in there, but the boy is so frustrated that the time has come. Of course, Chris Langford went in for a little operation through the week, a nerve on the hip as well, but that's okay. And Justin Dunstall, who all the problems were about, he's as fit as a Mallee bull. He's flying to Queensland today to join the stateside up there.
Okay, no operation on his heel. What's happening with St Kilda and Waverley? 31,000 there yesterday. They'll be pretty happy with that.
Well, the St Kilda boys expect a submission from the AFL this week on all the sort of ramifications about their move to perhaps Waverley Park next year, all the facts and the figures. And of course they're in debt at Moorabbin, and they feel that if they do go to Waverley, they'll get all that debt expunged, Brucey.
Scotty, we've had a whine, but very quickly the WA team is all quiet, that number 2 team.
It might be quiet on the surface, Bruce, but it's bubbling underneath. I believe that the West Australian Commission has employed a big marketing firm over there in Perth to sound out the public response to a new team in the competition next year, so by the end of the month.
Okay, everything's bubbling. And
bubbling.
Ron Barassi, did he produce a shirt front yesterday? What happened
Poor
there?
old Yank Crafty, apparently, got bowled over by Barras at the footy.
What, the old St Kilda man?
The old social club.
Just fit everybody on the panel today, a whole group of 7, and we start at the top as always. How are you, Don Scott? No, Bobby, how are you?
That's all right, Fred. I'm just going to, I seldom, I'll just say hello. How are you, Ron?
Very good, Bobby. How are you?
Happy Mother's Day to everyone. All the mothers.
Yes.
Well, go on. Thank you, quick one.
Oh, you wanted to be that quick, did you?
Yeah.
Ron, the state squad, any likely changes already? I mean, Silvani bounced back pretty quickly. You must have been pleased with Williams because you copped a bit of flack about him, and he produced the goods on Thursday.
I didn't cop any flack. It's
Jared would have pushed him. Exactly, he would have pushed him up as he did on Thursday night.
That's right, his mate.
That's right.
You were happy with Diesel's performance?
Well, I think if you didn't select him, it wouldn't matter if he was half dead. If you didn't select him in a squad, well, you'd be going bonkers.
Did Silvani impress you? Has he got a chance of forcing his way in?
Well, he's not in the squad at this stage. I mean, he's always capable of being added to. He didn't play that well the other night, by the way.
No.
He's a long way from his top. He's got an injury.
Bob,
Osborne or Lions?
Osborne or Lion. Would you have them in, Ron?
Well, Scotty Palmer says they should be in, so we'll consider it, won't we, Jared?
Well, I guess they'll be in if that's the case.
Yeah, exactly.
Roscoe, good to see you. You've been travelling around a bit.
Yeah.
What about West Coast today? Do you think that on paper they look to have their best team for a long time?
Better. I still think that Footscray, the form they're in, and they've won their couple of games into state so far. They haven't won in Perth, but I think they're better equipped now to beat the Eagles at home.
Well, you reckon the Eagles will go under today?
Well, I've tipped that, yes. Is that a surprise?
It is a surprise. I mean, if they're beaten today, then
Makes it very
they're
difficult.
almost curtains.
I just have a query about the fellas they've brought back in. I still don't think they're 100% fit, particularly Hetty, who relies so much on his running, and he's a very creative player. Until he will have trouble, I think, getting away from Baxter. Mick
Malthouse is doing a radio show with Dennis Cometti in Perth. Did you catch up with that during the week?
Yeah, Mick's playing some good music.
Oh, good. Right, Robbo, the blue come out of you on Thursday night?
I think they're having a fairly good season. They had a bit of a hiccup on the previous Sunday, but they're the trendsetters, Footscray, aren't they? So we'll wait and see.
And Carlton?
Yeah, well, Thursday night was good. I think, after talking to a few of the officials after they played St Kilda, they're pretty happy with the commitment. And, I'm wrapped in guys like Hogg and Athorn, who have shown a lot for Carlton.
Jared, we've run out of time for you. How are you?
Well, Bruce, yeah. Just like to mention, it is a state squad, can be added to, and it's great to get that input from such legends as Bob Davis and Scotty Palmer. We get their input, and it's all taken notice of, Bruce, isn't it?
Certainly is. We then pass on to Teddy, and Teddy
makes a decision.
Yeah.
Peter McKenna.
You've had a meeting about it, I presume, have you?
Bob, I was just going to introduce Peter, if that's okay with you.
Righto.
Peter, ex-Carlton and Collingwood. I think everyone forgot that you play for Carlton, though. I feel being a Maggie
Well, it was a terrific game, wasn't it? But the old Magpies, they still haven't had a good forward for a long time, have they, really? And
but listen, they've played with the same team all year.
For key forwards, but they'll come good, Collingwood. They're just worry about them against the real top sides. They struggle against Hawthorn and Geelong and those sort of sides, but they're very good against the middle-of-the-road teams.
Don, finally, you always talk about pressure in footy. How did that compare with like a major final on Thursday?
Well, I thought the best game I'd seen, as I said a couple of weeks ago, was Carlton St Kilda a couple of weeks ago when they played out at Princes Park, and that was about the second best game I'd seen since then. And Carlton are really playing old-fashioned football in as much as they're really pressuring. They haven't got that many stars in their side, but they're really lifting and doing and dragging the opposition down.
Don, did you mean the second best game since that one 2 weeks ago? Or the
second best game since the grand final, Hawthorn-Geelong.
Good on you, mate. Gerard, where were you yesterday? Geelong, weren't you?
I was at Geelong.
Yeah, you've been criticised a bit in Adelaide for your criticism of the Adelaide Crows over the last couple of weeks. How did they go yesterday, did you feel?
Well, I thought they were pretty ordinary again. That's to be expected, though. They're playing a lot of young players, and they're going to go backwards before they can go forwards. I thought Gary Ablett was fantastic once again. I gave him 3 votes. The game was over at quarter time. He kicked 4 in the first quarter. Young Ben Hart was on him, and Corns made him pay the price. He played on him all game, which I guess was a learning experience for Hart, but Ablett did it all yesterday. I gave 2 votes to Mark Bairstow. He was superb, 5 goals and 30 possessions. And Tony McGuinness, I thought, was, well, he was one of the real workers. He's a great role model for the Crows players, and the young players should just get in Tony McGuinness's corner and just work with him and try and emulate the way that he approaches his football, because he is one of the true professionals. I have to give a quick mention, though, to Stoneham, Handley, Brownless and Hinkley. They're all in good form. But the Crows desperately need some key forwards and some key backmen.
Well, speaking about key forwards, Gerard, I thought Rod Jamison was going to be a player this year that would really shine out. How did he play in the forward line yesterday, and do you think he's better in another position?
Well, I like Rod Jamison as a player, 49 goals last year. However, I think at the moment they're getting such limited supply to the forward line that he is struggling, and I think that his best position may be as a ruck rover, come half-forward flanker up the ground. He's so innovative and talented that he could do better for the Crows up the ground.
Now, I know the stats in the paper don't differentiate between overhead and chest marking, Gerard, but they indicate that very, very small side Adelaide, as they were the week before against St Kilda. Too small?
Well, they are too small. They've got Rodney Maynard and Nigel Smart playing key positions, and I believe they're probably in other sides, particularly, say, Geelong, they'd be playing on the periphery somewhere, half-back. We saw last week Lockett and Lowe dominate. They haven't got anybody to cover them. And just talking of possessions, Geelong had 332 and the Crows had 309. So there wasn't a great difference in the possession number, but it's the way they play. The Crows are chipping the ball round, taking 10-metre handballs, 10-metre kicks and going nowhere. Sure. Where Geelong are just going straight down the ground to their big guns and playing percentage football.
Be sure to go any other way, wouldn't they, with that height
with Stoneham and Brownless firing and Ablett on the fringe. Well,
Gerard, last year when the Crows took everybody by surprise, their centre line was dominant. What is it like now?
Well, I don't think they've really settled. Tregenda's a young player in the making, and he was beaten yesterday and taken off the ground, but I saw his last game. He was good against Richmond 2 weeks ago before his hamstring injury. But they're not really firing at all, the Crows, Don, and they've got to go back to the drawing board and regroup for a big game against Collingwood next week.
And you wouldn't count them out either at Football Park. It's a sellout, and it'll be an even money bet at this stage. They play so much better in Adelaide.
I'll take even money, Bruce.
OK, we might do some business. Speaking of Adelaide and success in Adelaide, Gavin Wanganeen's our special guest today, the 18-year-old from Essendon who played in a grand final winning team at 17 at Port Adelaide. Welcome to the program, Gavin.
Thanks, Bruce.
But disappointing yesterday. We've talked a lot about the bye in footy. Now, Essendon came off a bye yesterday after a marvellous win the week before. Any thoughts from the players' point of view?
Oh, well, myself as a player, I haven't really thought about the bye. I guess yesterday North were first to the ball and they got off to a great start and we were just chasing all day.
You agree with that, Peter McKenna? You don't like the bye?
Oh, look, fair dinkum, this business about the bye. Carlton played. Everyone said last year they whinged about the bye, Bruce, and it was affecting teams. And all of a sudden, teams won after the bye. They threw that one out. Now they're saying they don't have enough preparation. Carlton played on the Sunday and beat Collingwood on the Thursday. I mean, they didn't stop them.
Who's there that are winning?
It's a lot of rubbish.
Who are they?
It's just a media.
Lots of the media. Ron's one of them. Ron's. You've been saying this year about sides not having enough preparation, and that's all.
No. one side having more
Yes.
preparation.
Well,
That's
Ron
what I
wants
suppose. It's a
equal
difference.
preparations. Equal.
Yes, do it, be it 2 days or 10 days.
I don't think it
Equal is best.
Doesn't make any difference.
See, the thing
No
is,
difference.
why the Carlton one's not a good illustration is that Collingwood only had 5 days and Carlton had 4, so it was a line ball. If Collingwood had had a week and a half, it might have been different.
Yeah, but one team's on the ball mentally and others not. They would anyway. It wouldn't matter if it was 1 day or 10 days. So that's the biggest thing. But these other things can be, can count if all other things are roughly equal.
It's been happening with Sunday games for the last 5 years, Barras.
Yes.
So there hasn't been a real problem there.
Can I ask...
That's 5 and 6 and 7.
Where do you draw the line? Where's the
Can I ask
line
Gavin?
drawn?
Well, you're an expert on the body.
So you keep telling me.
Can I ask Gavin a
giving you a
question,
free
Bruce?
plug.
Could you tell us a little bit about Port Adelaide? Did you grow up in that area? Because we hear a lot about Port being a traditional club similar to Collingwood. And did you grow up as a young kid in the area?
I grew up out in Salisbury, and that was a 25-minute drive from Port Adelaide, and that was their zoning. So I got allowed to go out to Port Adelaide and either travel half an hour out to Port Adelaide. So I guess I didn't grow up in the area, but I was in their zoning.
Were you a Port Adelaide fan, Gavin?
I liked them, but I used to barrack for Norwood.
who are their great rivals. It's a bit like Collingwood and Carlton.
Yeah.
Don, you were at the match yesterday. Your votes?
Well, the votes, I was just going to ask Gavin another question.
Oh, go ahead if you like.
Who was supposed to be picking up Craig Scholl? He was a loose man in defence yesterday for North. Now, what was going on there? Especially in the first quarter, he picked up a lot of kicks.
I think there was a loose man in their back line, and I don't think anyone was picking him up. I wasn't too sure, I guess.
Maybe Essendon was playing a 5-man forward line as they usually do.
Yeah, I think we were, but...
Anyway, my votes for yesterday, if we can go to those, Alex Ishenko, and it's terrific to see a player resurrect himself, and Alex Ishenko has done that. He's training particularly hard, in fact too hard.
He had 2 kicks.
Listen, we're not talking about how many kicks he had. We're talking about the fact the way he's training. Well, can you just be quiet? I was going to be rude then. But Alex Ishenko, it's terrific to see him build himself up. He trains as hard as what Mark Jackson used to train, and it's good to see you have to hold guys back. Mark Jackson was a terrific trainer. Craig Scholl, we just mentioned him earlier, 2 votes, and Wayne Schwash 1. Anthony Stevens and Dean McRae, apologies, you just couldn't get in. But here we see on screen. Now listen, let's talk about the way they lined up first. Carey at centre-half back. That
Would you know?
Would.
Who did you have to speak to?
Now, Long at centre-half forward for Essendon, so that was a different matchup. Fairley at centre-half forward, normally plays at centre-half back for North. Schwash in the centre, and Dennis, who has been playing in the back pocket and doing reasonably well up there, up forward. Longmire had 3 goals in the first quarter and perhaps could have had a few more, and North Melbourne went in at half-time. Maybe this is where Carey at centre-half back really should have punched the ball. He attempted to fly from behind, but he is a very good player, Wayne Carey.
Gavin, do you find it difficult to accept the changes that Kevin Sheedy makes of a Saturday? Do you ever understand all the moves?
I guess we're just going to take it as a player and
as a professional.
Yeah, and just be happy to try to do the job wherever we go.
Well, just on that sort of thing, there were purported to be about 7 centre-half forward yesterday. Now that wouldn't be the case, would it? Just be the way it looked that way, surely.
Yeah, I think it was the way it looked.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we was running all the way around the forward, moving around all the time.
Yeah.
Gavin, do you have a favourite position, centre, or prefer being on ball? Are you a player that likes to be moving right through the ground, or do you prefer to play just through the centre area?
Centre would be my favourite position.
Russ mentioned attitude. Would you consider that maybe the Bombers could have taken North Melbourne a little lightly? Not consciously, I suppose.
Yeah, not consciously, but I guess, North got off to a great start and they were first to the ball all the time and we were just chasing, as I said.
Kevin, Simon Madden out of the side, what's been his attitude towards it in training? Is he really trying to...
Simon's training's been spot on and I won't be long until he'll be back in.
I think he'll be back in?
Yeah.
Gavin, thank you for your time. Good luck. It's going to be a battle to make the 6 now. That was a bit of a body blow yesterday. And we wish you well. Still just 18 years of age and you've achieved so much. Well done.
Thanks very much.
Gavin Wanganeen, our special guest today. We'll take a break, and after the break we look at that match of the century. I was commentating along with some other celebrities on Thursday night at the match of the century. Peter, do you think Collingwood might have been a victim of all the publicity in the build-up to the game?
No, I don't. I think Carlton were a far better side on the night, and as simple as that. And I think that Collingwood will always struggle against really top teams unless they can find a full forward or a centre-half forward.
The votes?
And, well, if we had a look at the votes, I'd like to have put Mick McGuanin or Dacos in somewhere, but I had to go with all Carlton players. Kernahan, well, he was the difference in the two sides. He kicked 7 goals. Matthew Hogg, what a great find. He did a terrific stopping job on Tony Francis and then went and got kicks himself. And Adrian Gleeson, that's the best game I've seen Adrian Gleeson play. He ran into the packs and he was absolutely
What about Mellum
terrific.
Hannah?
Well, Hannah I'd like to put in. You can't put them all in. Like Carlton had 8 really top players on the night.
What more should a top forward, centre forward or full forward do? Kick 7 goals in a crucial game.
He might have kicked. He could have kicked 10. He kicked 7 goals.
Lockett's kicked 10 and you haven't given us 3 votes, and I've heard you.
Dunstall kicked 17 the other
8
day.
out of 11 and never got a mention.
No,
This guy was taking marks over packs, kicking goals in the
look,
boundary line.
Kernan, I gave Steve Kernan a vote. He was terrific, but Carlton, I think, were very, very hard. I'll tell you one thing about Carlton. They've got a very, very good defence. Peter Dean is a class player. Young Michael Sexton's become a very good player. And Hannah is now a very disciplined player. And if they get David Kernahan back into that defence...
Dorotich did all right.
And Dorotich was good.
What about the ruling? Can anybody clarify that about this blood? Because Tony Shaw had, he was, he's bleeding profusely for a quarter. Now, don't they have to go off the ground?
Pretty quickly.
Yes, but
they attended to the cut very quickly.
Yes, but that's not the point. I mean, in other sports, you've got to go off for a little nick. Now, AFL football, it gets a lot of exposure. Should he have gone off the ground?
I don't think it's important, as a matter of fact, because leave that to the medical staff and we'll talk about the actual football.
I agree, Peter.
And Bradley, now there's Bradley. A lot of people knock Bradley, but Bradley is a really class... Well, Carlton supporters, I've heard a lot of Carlton supporters knocking him, but he is a top-class player.
Peter, would you consider that Collingwood may have had some problems? I believe that Tony Francis did have the flu.
No.
And there were a couple of others that were under a bit of a cloud.
No, once you cross that white line, you've got no excuses. Once you go out in that ground, you've got a full side out there and you're no good making excuses.
The rule is you don't give excuses yourself, but someone else can give reasons. Now, if a guy's got the flu and
he shouldn't be playing.
That might be so, but if he is playing, well, then there's a reason why he may be down in form.
Yes,
surely.
I know, but it's easy to do that. That's taking credit away from guys like Matthew Hogg, who was sensational all night.
Pete, what about Michael Christian missing? Leaves a big gap, doesn't down the spine.
Well, it did. They had to move.
Is a player that takes a spot and means now when he's not there, they don't have the players capable of taking a goal to goal.
They had to move Starcevic down
Charlie
there.
Manson
But you must remember, Kernahan had kicked 2 goals on Michael Christian at the start of the game anyway.
Yeah, but it left with no options height-wise with the Manson playing poorly.
Well, they've both got big games coming up. Collingwood go to Adelaide and Carlton will be sitting back and waiting for West Coast next weekend. Bob, Fitzroy and Richmond. Well, they're going all right, the Roy boys, aren't they? What did you think?
Well, they played very well after. They were shell-shocked for about 10 minutes when Naish got a couple of goals in the first couple of minutes. But for the votes, I suppose, the votes I gave one to Blakey, who was playing on the wing and doing extremely well. Osborne, at the moment, is really firing, taking the ball beautifully and got his confidence right up. But Jimmy Wynn was the fella that kept them going for the whole day, and he is in very good touch at the moment. But the poor old Tigers, they're having a very big struggle, and I'm just wondering how long it is going, or whether or not you keep fellas in the team hoping that they will come good. Ron, how long do you do that, or do you have to go down into the juniors and say, look, this season's gone, we'll start all over again?
Who are you talking about, Bob?
Yes, who are you talking about, Robert?
Honeybun for a start.
But he's been around for a long time.
Well, that's right. That's right.
And he was it was very interesting what Tim Watson said about Honeybun the other day. Very lackadaisical when he was on interchange, so maybe his mind's not on the job.
Bob, a lot of people are saying football has improved. Are you saying then, judging by your comments the last couple of weeks, that a lot of sides have actually gone backwards?
Well, I unfortunately, I do see the big games on the television, but the games that I am going to are somewhat of the lowly games, and there's certainly not a great many champion footballers coming up through that ranks at all.
Is it a coincidence that you are sent to the lower games?
No, Ron, because you obviously have the pick of where you go, Ron, and being the super coach.
Bob, I think McCormack, Broderick, and maybe Sartori to come back at some stage. Have they got any hope of making the 6?
They certainly have, because they play very well, and they've got a great design with Roos coming from centre back and going straight through, and someone taking over his position. And they obviously just put Lynch in yesterday in case there was a bit of trouble in the forward line. He's not fit. He's kicked 6 goals here at full forward. They've got an excellent team and they run very hard at the ball.
Bobby, what about Seacamp? He's been a good pickup for them. He's been very strong off half-back. He complements Stevens very well.
Their side, it's a much bigger side and a much stronger and faster team at the moment.
Was he overlooked by the Eagles, Ross?
Yeah, he was elected. He went for ball instead of Seacamp.
Bob, just finally, Roos. There's a bit of criticism of Roos a year ago or something, and
I think that he is one of Don Scott's resurrected players, without doubt. I mean, his career was certainly in jeopardy. I thought, to be perfect, I thought he was very close to being finished. But obviously, he's got a complete new resurrection somewhere, and he is playing beautifully at the moment.
Married life.
He's
well,
not
if
married.
he's married, that certainly might
settled with his football life, surely, wasn't he? I mean, it was just his football life that was a bit unsettled. Now he knows his future's with Fitzroy.
The important thing is he's been at the crossroads and he's gone in the right direction.
Well, there was a lot of talk about him going to other clubs, wasn't there, at one stage? OK, Bob, thanks very much for that. We'll make sure you get a decent game next week.
No, I'm only joking with you, Bruce. I enjoyed those games. But I will say this, at one stage yesterday, Richmond had a one-man forward line, Fitzroy had a two-man forward line, and we had 30 people inside the square scrummaging for the ball, which was marvellous for the whole game.
Team balance, Bob.
Yeah, team balance is great.
Thanks, Bobby. Can we take a break? Thank you. Back with more after this.
Well, they played pretty well, Bruce, considering the fact that Tony Lockett had probably a very small impact on the game. I thought Paul Bryce played very, very well on him. And having a look at the votes, I thought Bowie was very active, quite constructive, and a real tiger at the bottom of the packs. Robert Harvey, I've got no more I can say about Robert Harvey. He's just an excellent player. He keeps getting the football, he carries it nicely and gives it off to the advantage of his teammates. And I thought Newport earned 3 votes yesterday, worked very, very hard and had something like 32 possessions, kicked the first goal of the game and kicked a very, very good goal in the third quarter. And it's not often he gets the plaudits that he deserves, but he did play very, very well.
Did he have a free hand or was he tagging yesterday?
Well, actually, I would have considered that maybe St Kilda didn't think that they needed to tag anyone, and so Newport was left to be a little bit more creative. But their midfielders, I mean, you only have to look at what Melbourne have unavailable. Lyon, Jakovich, Bennett, Greg Healy,
Bennett's in the second, isn't he?
Tingay, Obbs was injured, Brett Lovett in the seconds. I mean, it's a long list of very good players, and that's exactly what happened to Melbourne yesterday. They had David Schwartz, who did a very good job for them, kicking 4 goals on the forward line. But apart from that, John Howard, who I feel has maybe bulked up a little bit too much and accordingly has slowed down a little bit, he kicked 3 goals, and they only managed 15 scoring shots, and the Saints, setting it up in the first quarter, kicking 7-4, finished up with 35 scoring shots, and that was the story of the day.
Robbo, I know every game's different, but if St Kilda played the same quality football as they did yesterday in a final, what do you think they'd get beaten by?
Yes.
I don't care who they would play.
No, that's true, but I mean, you're all very, very aware that you lift against certain opposition, and I think they did just enough to beat Melbourne. It
was an ordinary game, though.
It was, yes, and the players that did well. I think Nathan Burke got one of the awards for the day from one of the supporters group. He played very well. There's a few players like Stuart Lowe. Fancy leaving him out of the votes. I owe him an apology. 17 kicks and 13 hand passes, but I think they set a standard, don't they? Really good players set a standard. And if they don't get up to that standard, we usually ignore them, which is silly, which is crazy.
10 marks to half time. But the other thing we mentioned too, Robbo, is they lack Melbourne players with pace. They all seem to run at much the same pace throughout the game. They don't have anyone who can break away. I mean, a Jakovich, whatever you can. Lovell's got a bit of pace, maybe Stretch. But they do lack people who can get away with that first 10, don't they?
I think that's very important, Ross, and it's also important to have those players that carry the ball, that can create opportunities for teammates.
I think there was a realisation there yesterday. We've all been saying what's wrong with Melbourne and poor old John Northey, and he's under the hammer. When you looked at them yesterday, they just haven't got the players, and that's exactly what you mentioned. And they're really down at the moment, and they're not quite out, but they're going that way. Ross, so you went to Sydney on a Friday night as well, so you've been pretty busy. Is it overwrapping the Swans to suggest they've got some chance of the 6, considering the injury list they've had? They've got Richmond next week. They're not far away.
Well, you often hear people say that games are the worst games they've ever seen. Well, I think Friday nights was one of the worst I have ever seen. And I also think it's a bit of an indictment on the league that they're talking about another side out of Perth when you have a team of the quality of Brisbane at the moment that just cannot play good football. Votes, Lawson I thought was outstanding. The best game I've seen him play for some time. Not only possessions but quality ones, and around the ground his pace was just outstanding. Tunbridge in the middle of the ground, centre ruck duels, very good marking, and he's been very much, I think, the leading ruck in the league thus far with Wine from Footscray. And Dennis Carroll came off towards the end of the game with a bit of a hamstring niggle. His disposals and the way he uses the football it just shone out like a beacon.
Ross, I've watched the Swans play a couple of times. I think Buckenara's got a good style of game going for them.
Well, he has, and he's got some options through the centre of the ground. A fellow like Troy Graybob, who came on and kicked 4 goals, and is about 6'3", and moves very, very well, a left footer. And he's a player who has come up and taken some of the responsibility. He's only played a handful of games, but they're playing down his performance from Friday night. But I think he's got a lot going for him, certainly.
Ross, do you think you're being a little bit critical of the Bears, considering that they did beat the other team from Western Australia, or they drew with them,
sure. But
and they also have some very key players out?
No doubt, Jared, but the last 2 performances, I mean, if you saw them on Friday night first hand, Jared, they were just a rabble. Players weren't even disciplined enough to go and pick up an opposition player and at least make it a one-on-one contest. And that's where you've got to have some discipline. If you haven't got a bit of ability, at least have some discipline and be prepared to sacrifice yourself. A couple of players, particularly late, Darryl White, Windsor, they almost look disinterested. I mean, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, the Swans have struggled up forward. They tried a new player there, Alan Thorpe. What did you think of his?
Yeah, Alan Thorpe kicked a couple of goals. He lacks the ability to pick up a ball on a half volley on the ground, but I mean, he did a job at the time. I'm not sure he's got a great future there, but he did a couple of good things.
Ron, no, you're not allowed to ask anything. Jared's just sent the floor manager into a handstand situation at this stage, Brian. Now let's have a look at last Sunday. Fitzroy versus West Coast. Dennis Committee went Roos, Lyon and Jakovic for West Coast. Brisbane, Geelong, Robbo went Ablett. Gee, he's going all right, isn't he? Hanley and Hutton. To think that Hocking's got to come back there. And Footscray, Carlton, Ronald Dale went Atkins, Wind and Collingwood. And those 3 are starring at the moment. Atkins and Lowe at the top. Dunstall, Tunbridge and Ablett in hot pursuit, and then Wine, and we'll kick it on 7. But Atkins and Lowe are the joint leaders as we check the progressive votes. We take a break. Marks of the week after this. The week in just a minute. Ron Barassi and Ross Glendinning.
The Mark of the Week and the Mark of the Year are proudly brought to you by Mitsubishi Motors.
Well, how unusual we open with Gary Ablett. Does take a few good marks, and that's another Ablett specky.
And there's Barry Stone coming in across the flight of the ball. A very difficult mark, that.
Stephen Kernahan loves those grabs from behind and does that very, very well.
And Chris Mainwaring having all the advantages and taking full situation of them.
Darren Milton, he has got some class, and he showed on that occasion.
And here's young Shane Watson. Lovely piece of marking, this one. The jump, sure hands, beautiful.
Craig Bradley, for a shorter player, taking a mark like this in a pack, fine effort.
Well, here's Gavin Krasiska having Luke O'Sullivan at his mercy, and he takes full advantage.
The more I see of this fellow, Tim Allen, the more I like him. Has got a good deal of quality as well.
And here's young David Swartz, so a good leap. He's got quite a future, this kid, I think.
Well, a few highlights perhaps of Rod Jamison's game yesterday. Looked like taking overhead, but ended up on his chest.
And here's Billy Bowles. He's mistimed his leap, but he's still good enough with his hands and concentration to take that.
Paul Roos in great form and controlling that football, perhaps not right to the ground, but good enough for a mark.
Here's a very good mark from Richard Osborne. He's really hung onto the ball there despite a lot of opposition from behind.
And Duck Carey taking another one-hander here. He is a very fine player. Ron?
Well, yes, we had a lot of difficulty here. We chose
I didn't.
Oh, well, I did, because I chose about 4 or 5 equal, but we finish up with little Braddles taking an overhead mark in a pack, which is quite difficult for a man of Bradley's size to take. Yeah, good, very good stuff there. He's a very good player. I don't know why anyone ever fights against the opinion that he's a top player in Australian football.
Well, he is, and he joins Grant, Wiedemann, Lewis, Lowe and Kickett amongst the winners round by round. We've had some outstanding goals during the round, and Gerard Healy and Robbo about to look at those. The goal of the week.
The goal of the week and the goal of the year are brought to you by BP. BP, on the move.
Well, the first one's up at Carrara last week, and it's Andrew Wills who bounces the ball out of the centre. An excellent goal. Unfortunately, he was dropped from the team. He's a very good player, one of Bobby Davis's favourites, and I'm sure he'll come back in.
Now, this is not a bad effort by a youngster. Only played about half a dozen games, Peter Riccardi, and finishes off beautifully from about 50 metres.
Not as good as Bundy.
And here's another goal from a player of limited ability. Just watch this one from on the left foot. You'd think it's his natural foot. He bombs it in from about 45 metres. Ball goes through mid-post height. An excellent goal from Superman.
Now, the next two goals are from one of the most exciting young players in the competition at the moment, Stephen Collingwood.
Well, that was 1 of 6. This is 2 of 6. An excellent goal. Earned himself Victorian State squad selection this week, and will be a big chance to get a game, I'm sure.
You'd have to consider this perhaps a bit of good fortune. Darren Wheeldon just throwing the foot boot at it, and it sailed through for a goal.
And Richard Osborne has been in pretty good form in front of goals this year. Snaps an excellent goal down in Tasmania, and he gave the Eagles a bit of a hiding.
Great balance here. 3 bounces. First one, second one, now the third, and nearly to 50. And what a beautiful kick on the run by Gavin Krasiska.
Well, for this player, Earl Spalding, it's probably goal of the century. Not noted for his accuracy in front of goals, but balks, ducks and weaves a la Maurice Rioli, and still has enough balance to pop through one from 50 metres in an excellent game for the Blues.
I feel if this guy was a couple of centimetres taller, he'd be a top player. John Hutton. Good goal.
What a great goal. Carroll off the ground.
Troy Gray from Queanbeyan, first-year player for the Swans. They say he came of age on, was it Friday night, and an excellent goal on the left foot.
I think a player that can give St Kilda just what they need, a little bit of bite. Dale Kickett, that was a good goal.
And still they keep coming. This goal is to Stephen Newport. Good tap out here from Fletcher, who has the presence of mind to keep it running St Kilda's way, a skill in itself. Newport from 40 metres, pretty much a standard shot, but tight angle, so good goal.
And a vital player for the Cats. If they're to figure at the end of this year, Andrew Hughes loves that situation and popped it through for a nice snapshot goal.
Well, it's probably an Ablett-led recovery down at Geelong at the moment. He's got it all, can do it all. Poked that one through a little gap in the pack, and another great goal to Super.
And if Gary Ablett doesn't do it, this guy does. Billy Brown, it's unbelievable, isn't it? From 50 metres, and it went way over the players' heads in the square.
Well, Richard Osborne obviously had an excellent game yesterday. Watch this one, a second effort there. He's knocked over. Pretty poor tackling from Scott Turner there to let him go, but great skills from Osborne. Just hooks that one round the corner.
And the last of the goals that we're going to look at is Gavin Exel, who does it pretty nicely in the finish to snap over his right shoulder and put it through for a Fitzroy goal.
Well, there's about 4 or 5 goals that we liked. Osborne's, Collinyook's second one, Ablett's couple, and Darren Wheeldon, although a little bit lucky Wheeldon. But we've gone for Gavin Krasiska. I thought that his bouncing the ball, long run and goal, very difficult to combine the two. The kick was from above, outside 50 metres in a pressure situation, and an excellent goal, particularly at that stage of the game. I think it was Collingwood's first.
Going to Gerard and Robbo. Long playing goals there, and Krasiska joins Gowers, White, Carey, Devonport and Hinkley amongst the goals of the week, and they're eligible for the goal of the year. Let's have a look at the goal kicking list. Dunstall, of course, on 55 without playing yesterday. Lockett, we thought, might make some inroads, but he didn't make as much as a lot of people expected at 42. Osborne, Ablett and Kernahan have done very well in this round, Brown and Dacos. Bobby, we haven't got a lot of time. West Coast, Footscray.
I think West Coast will beat Footscray.
Do you?
Yes,
Ronald?
comfortably.
Yeah, I think chance of Footscray to come of age was a term used this morning by one of my fellow commentators here.
Ross, I know you're going for Footscray. What about the fact that they're going very late? Footscray, midnight last night they arrived.
Well, that sort of a hit-and-run situation doesn't do any harm, I don't think.
OK, Robbo?
West Coast.
Gerard?
Yeah, I'm going for West Coast with no conviction, Bruce.
OK, Peter, what do you think?
Same here, West Coast.
And Don, West Coast. OK, so fairly well split there, but interesting to see whether it comes off. Footscray arriving at midnight last night and going straight to bed.
It's really only 10 o'clock our time, isn't it?
No, it's midnight.
No, it's actually 2 a.m. our time, isn't it?
They work on the Victorian time.
10 a.m.
They work
Okay.
on Victorian
We've just-
time.
We're going for a break. We've just worked it out. Thanks, Don. Thank you, gentlemen.
The diagnosis.